Hello, I am Sandra Pembleton. I grew up in Bolsover. I've lived in Nottingham for years and I'm now living in Kirkby Cross. And I'd like to tell you about my granddad. My granddad was called William Yates and he was born on the 29th of November 1910. He was baptised at Brimington Church on the 16th of December 1910 and the 1911 census has him as a 4-month-old living at North Road in Brimington. By the time of his marriage, on the 3rd of August 1931, he was living at Shuttlewood, 2 doors down from the school. His only child, my father, also called William, was born on the 20th of July 1932 and he was baptised at Bolsover Church and attended Shuttlewood School. Grandad went to evening classes. It was clown, I believe, and he got his under-manager's papers. When Sheffield started to be bombed, my grandmother refused to let him travel, so his studies ended and never restarted. He never took up a job as an under-manager, but he led a team underground all his life. His team mainly included his brother and later his son, who was known as Bill Jr. Towards the end of the war, Grandad bought a shop on Woodhouse Road at the bottom of the Wimpy estate at Bolsover, which his wife ran whilst he worked at Markham. Grandad bought a green van to run food orders around in his spare time. They left the shop about 1950 and moved to Moor Lane, Bolsover, where they stayed until 1956. In 1956, the family moved to 2 side-by-side bungalows in Bolsover, so I lived next door to my grandparents, and they remained there until their deaths. My grandparents had a static caravan at the coast for years, but in the late 1960s, Grandad had changed this for a touring caravan, and they joined the Caravan and Camping Club, of which he was a member for years. Grandad enjoyed sport, especially tennis and cricket. His other weakness was cars, and he taught me to play chess. He was a very clever man, was my granddad. The day before the accident, there had been a family get-together because there had been a christening at Clown Church. All the family had been there and we were all in good spirits. And the next day, the news arrived about the accident. My father had narrowly missed being on the same cage as his father. Grandad was taken on a lorry to Chesterfield Hospital and then later moved to Sheffield. I never went to visit him. I couldn't force myself to do so. The new baby that was in the family helped to save my grandmother by giving her a focus. And my father went to pieces. His nerves were shattered, so much so that he eventually ended up in a wheelchair, and it took years for my father's health to improve. The story I heard was that my grandmother was offered £2,000 for her husband's death. This sum was arrived at as it was the sum he would have earned had he lived and before his retirement at the age of 65. The family held out for more money, and my grandmother accepted £4,000. So, Grandad was the last member of the 18 to die, and he died on the 15th of August 1973 in the Royal Hospital at Sheffield. The causes were twofold. One, and I'll have to read this, acute tracheobronchitis with early bronchopneumonia following multiple fractures of the ribs and the sternum, and 2, hepatorenal degeneration following multiple injuries sustained at Markham Colliery when a descending cage crashed to the pit bottom. So Grandad was the last man to die in this disaster. His church service was held in Bolsover Church and he is buried in Oxcroft Lane Cemetery with his wife, who died in 1983. My father was summoned to attend a public inquest at Chesterfield Town Hall on the 10th of October 1973, and an inquest was held on the 25th of April 1974.